and welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing well. Sorry, the sun is completely in my eyes, like it's actually a really nice day today, but really cold. So today we are going to talk about deciding what sort of van you want, because this has taken me a long time to actually figure out what van I want, and I've been living in my van for 8 years. So these are the things that I have learned that I should have questioned myself on. So choosing the right van, if I'm looking down, sorry, I'm checking my notes and stuff. So choosing the right van really depends on what you want out of your van, what you want to do with your van. So it depends if you want like home comforts, if you want to be stealthy, if you want to be small. It really depends if you want it full time or even weekend sort of thing. So what I would say is you kind of need to ask yourself some of these questions. So do you want a shower? So do you want it inside or outside? Do you want one at all? Because some people go to campsites to do like washing, have showers, and do like certain things. Do you want a kitchen? Like, do you want a full-time like out kitchen like all the time, like a work surface? Do you want stuff to be built in? Do you want an oven? Do you want a fridge? Because some people don't have fridges because sometimes you don't really need it. Sometimes people don't live off things that need to go in the fridge. Sometimes people don't mind the milk, you know. A lot of people don't mind having the little cartons of milk that don't need to be refrigerated. Some people don't mind that. Some people don't have milk in general. It all really depends on what you want. Also, the main thing, which is going to depend on the size of your van, is do you want a fixed bed? Because if you have a fixed bed, that means you are going to need a bigger van, because then you're going to want a sofa, you're going to want your kitchen, you're going to want like certain things. So it really depends on if you want a fixed bed or not, because some people like to have a sofa that then turns into a bed. That's entirely down to you. The next main important question is going to be, do you want to be able to stand up in your van? For me, that's something that, going from my first van, which was a T4, I didn't have a high top on that, which meant I couldn't stand up. I was like this in the van, which is not what you want. So I would think about that, because you can get vans that don't have a high top, but you can buy high tops for those vans. So it really does depend. If you want to be able to stand up in it, I would preferably find one that you can buy a high top for, or one that already has a high top on it, or one that you can just generally stand up in. So this one has the high top on, but you can also get one that doesn't have the high top on, but you can buy high tops for these vans. Same with the Movano, you cannot get a high top for that, but they are already high tops, which is quite useful. Or you can get one specially made, depending on how much money you have. Also, depending on the size of the van, do you want the van to be able to fit into a normal car parking space, which is about 6 metres in the UK, I think. Which then means you can get a small van for ferries, which makes the ferries cheaper, especially in Scotland. It makes it a lot cheaper. And it just makes it easier to be able to go into any car park. With this one, it doesn't have power steering. So for me, I still struggle to go into big car parks, because still they're quite narrow, they're small. This literally, wheel to wheel, this side, like this way, lengthways, it's like just fits in the bay. It's like touching white lines. And from front to back wheels, it does fit in a 6 metre bay car parking space. But one, it's really hard to get into, especially if it's really busy, because no power steering. And I've still got overhang. I've still got like that overhang, so it's kind of like I just take up 2 spaces at that point. So those would be the questions that I kind of ask myself. I know a lot of people like the stealthy camping sort of style, but you need to make sure that there's airflow within your van. If you haven't watched my other video, I'll just plop it up here. But it's 10 things that I wish I knew before I bought a van and started living in the van. So you will need airflow. So it doesn't matter if you decide to go for something like a T4 or a Ford Transit, you're still gonna need to put things on and outside around the van that will then make it very obvious that you are living in the van. Another question that I would also ask yourself is, or remind yourself for, is when you are buying a van, do you want that van to be cheap? So let's say like you need maintenance on it or something breaks on the actual van itself, like engine stuff, things like that, and replacement, or like backlights and things like that. If you crack the backlight or something like that, you're gonna want the van to be something that is quite easy to get parts for. So with my old van, the Movano, really easy to get parts for, especially when you're in the EU, in this country as well, and there's like 3 or 4 other vans that are basically the same, like the engine's the same, like the lights and all the fixtures on the outside, like trims, things like that, doors, stuff like that, they're all the same. So you've got Vauxhall, Renault, and something, and I think there's another one, but they're basically all the same. Like, so all the 2010 vehicles, they just literally have a different badge on, but it's exactly the same. You wouldn't know the difference. And the same with this van. The same with this van. Yes, it's a 1995 van, but if I go to the Netherlands, if I go to Germany, or anywhere in Africa, there are an abundance of these. And Mercedes still do parts for them. So if I can't find parts, it's easy to just ring Mercedes up and give them the part number, and they basically still have the parts. So that is another reason why I love this van. But when I had my Mark 1 LT, Volkswagen only do certain parts for those. So I think ours was a 1993 or something like that. But they didn't do all the parts. So you had to buy another LT to then have a donor to be able to do it, or find someone that has loads lying around, which is quite hard to find because a lot of people that own the LTs normally have their own donor and don't bother with it. So yeah, quite difficult quite difficult to find parts. So when you are looking to buy a van, I would keep that in mind. That's probably the one thing that I've learned, is that you want a van that is going to be easy to find parts for, because like I said before, things break, things will break, and things are going to break, especially when you live in the van, because you're constantly driving it around. You're not always doing the oil all the time, replacing the oil, because realistically, every a couple thousand miles you should be doing it again, like maybe 5,000 miles, probably even less than that, especially with older vehicles like this. You want to be replacing that oil all the time. So getting on to things like budgeting for your van, I would always obviously save money, but I would probably budget for 10,000. And I would put all of that into one. So 10,000 would be buying the van, and then building the inside of your van, especially like your main things like your bed, and if you want a shower, your kitchen, things like that. And then put your electric system in that budget too. I would always budget more than what you think you're going to need. So you can do a really good electric system for around a grand, maybe 1,500, depending on what sort of thing you want. So if you want like more than 2 batteries, because batteries are really expensive. They are the things that are expensive, and I will make a video at some point about AGM and lithium and what's going to be better for you in the long run, and make it really simple so you kind of understand it. But yeah, I would put the cost of the van, materials for the van, and anything that you need to fix with the van. because I have realised whenever you buy a van, when you drive it home, something seems to go wrong, or something will go wrong in the first 2 to 3 months. So then you are going to need to sort of fix that. So what I do in my head, I always treat the van like it's a business. So when you start your own business, everybody says within the first 5 years, you are not going to make a penny. Every penny you make in the first 5 years is going to go back into the business, right? I do the same with vans. So, I estimate in the first 5 years, everything's going to go wrong. Everything's going to break. So then if it doesn't, thank God, touch wood, that the van doesn't do that. But again, on my way home with this van, if you've not watched me buying the van, I'll stick it up here in the thing. The slave cylinder went in this van. On the way home, the clutch kept sticking. We thought, oh, okay, it's probably going to be the slave cylinder and the master cylinder. It was actually the slave cylinder, but we bought both just in case because, hey, if the slave's going to go, the master's going to go at some point. So you might as well just replace them both. And then the fuel started pissing out from the top of the engine before my MOT. So that's another thing. There's 2 things that have gone wrong already, you know? So it's just being on top and then alongside all the welding that needs doing with it. Don't even get me started on that. But things will go wrong. That's inevitable. And it's going to happen. It's just going to be one of those things that you have to prepare for. So that's why I always say in the first 5 years, things are going to break, things are going to go wrong. And with the Movano, that is exactly what happened. Every single time I took it for its MOT, it cost me £2,000 to fix. That's why it's up for sale. Because I didn't want to keep doing that. I just did not want to do that. I couldn't afford that. Everything that I was saving to then be able to go travelling with ended up disappearing when I had my MOT. So for me, it just wasn't worth it. And I don't like new vans. I hate them. They're ugly. They're too electronic. Things break too much. I hate it. It's not for me. I missed the LT. I wanted something from back in the day. This girl is literally 1 year older than me, so she's 30 at the moment. She'll be 31 next year. That's how I would do your budgeting, and always be on top of things. If you know nothing about vehicles, your best bet is to take someone that knows. Just ask them to go with you. Just ask them. Or ask them to have a look and look through like certain vehicles that you do like, things like that. But yeah, I would always be on top of what you're trying to buy. And another thing that I think people forget, like, yes, you have to buy your tools within that price. You could borrow tools. I borrow quite a lot of tools. To sand my walls down, I borrowed Max's stuff. I borrow a lot of Max's stuff, to be quite honest. So those are the questions that I would consider before buying a van, because I think a lot of people forget and just think, oh, it's literally just about buying a van that's cheap and then doing the build as cheap as you possibly can. But it's not always like that. You have to make sure you've got savings. You have to make sure that you're prepared for things to break. You have to make sure you're preparing just for certain things, to be honest, because I think a lot of people forget about it. For a lot of people as well, they will build their van and then buy everything whilst they're living in it. I have done a lot of vans where I am building the van whilst I am living in it, and that is probably my biggest regret, because you sell the other van so that you got money to build the other van, but actually what you should be doing is maybe not that, because it makes it 10 times harder. I've lost so many things. I've misplaced so many things. I then find, I have so much stuff in my Movano that I didn't even realise that I had. I've basically built me and Max have basically built this van together and made it quite quick so I can just move into it, because I can't be dealing with the Movano. I can't be dealing with being in a van where there's no airflow and it's getting mouldy. And when we went travelling last year around the west coast of Scotland, I kept it here, and mice got into the van, and I still swear there's mice in the van. So I just wanted to get out of that van as quickly as I possibly could as well. So yeah, it's just a freaking nightmare. And so yeah, just make sure that you are budgeting your van and being realistic about the outcomes of how long it's going to take you to build, because it takes a lot longer than what people think, especially if you're doing it on your own and you're learning at the same time. And I think there's something else within that people forget, that it's an absolute nightmare to build a van if you've never done it before, but it's the most rewarding thing that you can do. Personally, for myself, I have now built 5 vans, and I hate it. I hate van building, and I would never, ever, ever want to put this on anybody. Personally, because everything just goes wrong. I'm just not the building type. I hate it. I would never do it again. This is the last van I'm gonna do it on. And I hardly done anything in this van. Like, I'm gonna hold my hands up, man. Max built everything in here. I just done kind of decorating parts, really, like painting, sanding down the walls. I helped him put the floor down, things like that. But whilst he was building the frames for the kitchen and the frame for the bed and stuff like that, like, I was doing other things. I was doing other things because I hate it. It stresses me out because I get really stressed. I get stressed out really easily, and it stresses me out, and I have all of these great ideas, but I can't execute them. No matter how much I try to execute these things, I just can't do it. There's something within me that I just can't do it. Like, some people just are built to do these things. I am not. There is nothing within my blood that can do building. And it's okay to hate building vans. It's okay. But you can still live in a van even though you hate doing it. Even though you hate doing it. I always get people to help. Yeah, so I can. And I hope this helps you guys to figure out what van is right for you and what sort of van you want to deal with and live in. Especially for me, smaller spaces with the dog is just not useful, and I needed a bigger space that felt right for me, right for him. And I think spending a lot of time in Max's van has made me realise that I want something that's more like a house, not a van. And this really does feel like a house inside. It doesn't feel like you're in a van, but also does at the same time. It's not narrow, that's the thing, and I didn't like that. That's the one thing I hated, was living in a corridor. This doesn't feel like a corridor, it does feel like a house. And that's what I wanted. I wanted it to to be a house. I wanted the home comforts that you could easily get in a house. I wanted it to feel no different than a house. I have never had a shower in my van before. This one has. This one has, and it's actually amazing. And I wasn't into showers and things like that. I'd rather a wardrobe than a shower. But spending time in Max's van has made me realise that, you know what, just being in the middle of absolutely, excuse my language, but buck fuck nowhere, and have a shower, just go, oh, do you know what, it's lovely and warm in here, the log burner's on, I'm just going to have a quick shower. It's so refreshing. It's just so nice to be able to just go, fuck it, I'm gonna have a shower. I want a shower, I'm gonna have one. And I've never had proper running water in a van before. I've never had a tap in a van before. Which, strange, I know, right? Strange. But I had one in Max's and I realised how good it was. I've really been scrimping it because I couldn't afford, like, plumbing and all that, like, crap. The only thing I ever truly had was a log burner, and a diesel heater. And a diesel heater I didn't really use much, and that was only because we had a diesel heater in the LT. That was the only place and time that I've had a diesel heater, and that was 2019. For I think maybe 2 years we had that van. That van just didn't get any love. It didn't get any proper love, because otherwise I'd still have it. And I loved Betty. Betty was great. Absolutely beautiful van, and I love that van, and I really miss that van. And I was gonna get an LT before I got seen this van, but this was up for 15 grand, and I got it for cheaper than that because it's fucked. Brand new engine, and underneath is solid, but as always, the sills need doing, as they all do on these fucking Mercedes. But yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed this video. Please subscribe and please boost this video, because I'd like these videos to get out, because I know that they're going to help people, and they're going to help people not make the same mistakes as the rest of us have when we started doing this whole van life stuff. I want to share my experiences and help you guys to not make the same mistakes, because I know a lot of van lifers are quite hush-hush with these things, and they won't be completely honest with you, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of people doing it now, and since it's got a lot bigger, it has ruined it a lot for the people that are full-time. But that does not mean that you shouldn't have honesty, and you shouldn't have someone that is going to basically nurse you through these things, because I get so many messages about how'd you do this, how'd you do that, like what made you choose this, what made you choose that, like all of these questions, that I'm basically just giving you them now. I keep having so many questions that it's just at the point now where it's just like, okay, well, I'll make a YouTube video, and then your questions are answered, and I don't need to answer about 100 million people every single day the same questions with the same answers. So I'll just give you these. I just give you these YouTube videos. But I hope that this has helped, and I hope you guys have a great day. And I'm going to go back inside now because it is freezing. So I hope you have a good day, guys. Bye!